Norfolk, it's Anna Perro with you till 2 o'clock. I've been very excited to speak to my next guest, and I hope you enjoy the interview because I'm really looking forward to it. I need to ask you first, did you go and see the England Lionesses play at Carrow Road the other week? It was, I imagine, such a great atmosphere. I really wanted to go, but baby wasn't feeling too well, and it was our intention to go, and we didn't, unfortunately. I was really gutted that we couldn't. But I bet it was amazing atmosphere and a brilliant side too for girls in Norfolk to look up to, of course, especially because we had one of our North Walsham girls playing for them. They were amazing, wasn't it? But whilst women's football is sort of starting to get much deserved and long-awaited coverage, there are sports that are still struggling to support women wanting to participate. Now, motorsport does have women's categories, but more needs to be done. And now that's according to my next guest, who is campaigning for it, and she supports women who want to get into racing in our county. It's Laura Coolidge, just launched the initiative Better Together and works with the Anglia Motor Sport Club. Afternoon, Laura. It's so nice to speak with you.
Hi, Anna. Thanks for having me.
No, you are most welcome here, my friend. You really, really are. Let's talk about you and your story first, because how did you first get involved in the world of motorsport?
Well, I've sort of been involved in motorsport my entire life, really. It's something that I've always been around. My family have been really involved, whether that's my mum and dad. They compete in rallying. And funnily enough, they both met through motorsport. My mum was actually already involved in motorsport before she met my dad. So I've had two really strong role models in my life, always going to watch them competing in events. So it was just natural that as soon as I was old enough, I'd also get involved. So I started driving in car trials at 14, and then co-driving in special stage rallying with my dad from the age of 16. And we go right from very local events. So we're competing at Snetterton Stage Rally a couple of weekends ago to across the country, across to Wales, up north for various forest rallies.
Oh, that sounds so cool. Oh, what sort of thing are you driving?
So my dad's got a Ford Anglia 105e rally car. So it's something a little bit different. Not many people expect to see it flying along. Oh, how fabulous. Gosh, I could just... Oh, brilliant. Oh, what a wonderful thing to do. Laura, I wonder when your mum was in part of that crew, as it were, part of that environment, did she notice that she was one of very few women partaking? He certainly did. And the environment that my mum experienced as a 22, when she was 22, like I am now, is fairly similar. I think female involvement has been very stagnant across the years. It's been nearly 50 years since a female driver started Formula One. There hasn't been a female win the World Rally Championship now since Michelle Mouton in the 1980s. There hasn't been too much progress, unfortunately, but that's something that we're hoping to change.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's lack of interest or just a misunderstanding about what the scene is like?
Yeah, I don't think it's lack of interest. I think women sort of equally want to participate in this sport, but it's still seen as very male-dominated. And this was something that I looked to assess and look into in my undergraduate dissertation. So I studied at the University of East Anglia. And when I got to my third year, I thought, well, what do I want to look into? And I've always been so passionate about my sport, and my personal experience has always been that there have been events when I've been at the only female. And I didn't quite understand at that point why that was. So this is something that I really looked into. And I spoke to over 150 women from a range of roles and disciplines in motorsport, those competing at the very grassroots, right to those in elite motorsport. And I found out that 47% of women have felt uncomfortable whilst competing, volunteering or working within the motorsport environment. And 1 in 4 have felt excluded from competing, volunteering or working in motorsport because of their gender. Unfortunately, there are still stereotypical views and sexist comments within the environment. The typical female driver comment comes to mind. And I think perhaps that might be the reason why there are less women in motorsport currently, because it is still male dominated and there's not a massive amount of role models there, whether that's in elite motorsport, but also at the grassroots, to show women the way and that it is a brilliant sport that they can take part in.
That's really interesting that I imagine, I don't know why, I didn't know what the scene would be like. Can you talk more about your experiences of comments and sort of maybe feeling slightly uncomfortable in, you know, when out, you know, racing?
Certainly. Well, yeah, I have always had a very supportive family around me, which has helped. And I was brought in through that family. So sort of already a little bit established within the environment, which certainly helped. But it is intimidating to be part of the minority at an event. Being an only female, there's less people to resonate with. You feel that little bit more isolated and alone. And I also felt it can be a little bit of a double whammy when you're female, but also a young person coming into motorsport. You've not only got barriers to break from being new into the sport and less experience, but you have got those stereotypical views, and you know there is still a little bit of sexism. So that is my experience, and I had some real interesting stories from the women that I spoke to within my dissertation. So one lady said that the more successful she is in motorsport, the less nice people are about her. Other women said that no one took them seriously, and you have to prove yourself much more as a woman. But also I spoke to two sisters, and they regularly compete, and occasionally they bring their boyfriends along with them. But what they found at events was that when their boyfriends attend, it was the boyfriends that were asked about the car or driving first, and people didn't ask them, even though they were the ones competing. And you know, their boyfriends actually knew far less than they did. So that's quite a common occurrence actually in the motorsport environment. As a female, it's just deemed that maybe you're less knowledgeable. Yeah.
Could it be also that perhaps the men there who are asking their boyfriends questions are just uncomfortable and not used to speaking to women?
Yeah, quite possibly. When there are less women in an environment, yeah, that could be the way for sure.
It's staggering that this is, you know, the case in so many environments. I always try and understand the perspective of because I'm a fairly new mum. When I think of guys going into parent and toddler groups, and I think, well, this must be how I feel walking into a garage. I sort of liken it to that. There are still these very heavily gendered places that people go to and are expected to be in our society, which then doesn't help because you then end up stereotyping. I think it's very interesting what you say about the competitor who said that as she gets better, people are less nice. What's that about?
Well, I don't know, and that's also backed up. Another respondent said that people in the environment were absolutely fine with her when she was learning. They were really supportive at that point and wanted to support her. But it was at the point where women do sometimes beat men, because this is a sport where men and women are on a level playing field, which is brilliant. Yeah. It's at that point also where they start receiving more comments, more negative comments, and it's sometimes at that point where it can become a little bit unsupportive.
Well, as usual, education is I think, the way forward, and you're keen to combat this head on, firstly with your dissertation, which just sounds, I mean, good for you for doing something that inspires you. My dissertation was was based on, like, water going round woody debris in a river. So you've put yours to very good use, Laura. So thank you for doing that and addressing some proper issues there. So what is Better Together? What are you hoping to achieve with that?
Yeah, so this all came about from the findings of my dissertation. I was really shocked by them. We spoke about personal experiences. I had experienced bits and pieces, but actually, you know, some really interesting things came out, and I knew that I really needed to address these with these findings. So I enlisted the help of other female role models in the East Anglian region, and we formed a group to discuss how to get more women involved in club motorsport whilst making the environment safer and more inclusive for all. So our group is made up of men and women, and we participate in a variety of roles and disciplines in motorsport East Anglia, and we all come together with a passion to make a difference. So our initiative aims to knock down barriers and make club motorsport more inclusive and accessible to all. And we kicked off by running a series of presentation evenings within our clubs to raise awareness of the subject from within. And these provided people with the opportunity to ask questions, find out about the findings and our vision. And we found out the research-based underpinning of why we launched the initiative helped massively, because after we shared the various quotes and the statistics from my study, most people could completely understand and support our work. And then following on from this, we've launched a social media campaign, and the response to that video was amazing. We received so much support towards the initiative. And it was at that point where the initiative reached further than the East Anglian region. We had motorsport clubs and high-profile competitors across the country and beyond sharing our message. That was absolutely brilliant. And then following on from that, we've now developed the code of conduct. And this is something that we ask our clubs to display within their club magazines, websites and event regulations. And we also support our clubs with guidance to ensure that their events are inclusive and accessible to all. So things that we promote are, for example, organising toilets at events, because a lot of our events are sometimes in the middle of nowhere where there's no facilities. And before Better Together was launched, some events weren't necessarily organising toilet facilities for women. But this is something that is now ensured at all of our events.
That's amazing. Gosh, it's making a real difference. Like, it's beyond... I imagine some people may have thought, like, you know, women in motorsport, a bit of a gimmick. Do you know what I mean? That sort of feeling towards it. And now you are changing the code of conduct for the whole thing. That is so incredible. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, I am. I think change isn't going to happen overnight. I think I'm fully aware of that, but I am pleased to be using my findings to make a difference and do something practical. And I do feel really responsible for the environment and for these women to make the sport inclusive and accessible to all. And I really want more people to get involved in motorsport because it's such an enjoyable sport. So yeah, I am proud, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, good. So you should. Well, if we've got, many women, many girls listening now who might want to just have a look, find out a bit more. Where can we get some more information, please?
Yeah, so we're running a Get Into Motorsport evening on Monday, the 28th of March at Horringer Community Centre, near Bury St Edmunds at 7:30 p.m. So this evening is free to attend to anybody and everybody interested in getting involved in motorsport. And we're going to give everyone the opportunity to come and listen. We've got some brilliant local competitors coming to talk about their personal experiences and motorsport journeys. And attendees can come and find out about the wide range of roles and disciplines that they can take part in Norfolk and East Anglia. And we've also got a number of local ambassadors on hand to give advice and let them know exactly what they need to take part. So a lot of our motorsport, it's very low cost to take part in. You don't necessarily need any specialist equipment, and you can even take part in your own road car. So it'd be fantastic if anybody is interested. Please do come along. We'd love to see you. And everybody is welcome at Anglia Motorsport Club. We're a really friendly bunch, and there's roles for everybody, whether they'd like to compete, marshal, or help organise events.
Oh, Laura, I bet you, like many others, are looking forward to when these sorts of things don't need acknowledgement. Then it's just accepted that everyone can do whatever they like, pretty much.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day.
Yeah, we'll get there with people like you doing what you're doing. So it's, massive. All my hats are off to you. It's amazing. Nice one, Laura. Thank you so much for taking the time to us. It's really good to speak with you. That's Laura Coolidge, writing a dissertation on women in motorsport, and has, from her results and figures that shocked her so much, launched the initiative Better Together. For more information, go to Anglia Motor Sport Club online. Check it out. Go onto YouTube as well. And just continue to be inspired.